FACEKILLER is an unpopular Roblox PvE FPS game with boomer shooter elements. The enemies are faces with emotions, similar to emojis, that have been grotesquely mutated to be horrifying and powerful. In this video, we talk about the entire development process of the game, as well as the inspirations and origins for everything. There will be real development footage as well. I decided not to use my avatar for this video, as it'd be too jarring for new viewers. Part 1. The idea. The idea was hard to come by, but it was so unique we couldn't pass up the opportunity. The real origin of this comes from drawings of faces becoming monsters. I won't show them on screen, but imagine the smiley face, frowny, angry, worrying, surprising and confusing normal on one side. Then there's an arrow between the two sides with the word virus. And on the other side is their infected counterparts, or their type 3 infected forms, as they're called in the game. Me and my friend did drawings of more and more faces until I decided I wanted to make it a game. I didn't decide what it'd be right away. Some of the genres I thought of were horror and puzzle, but I eventually landed on boomer shooter. As well, the main two game inspirations were indeed Doom Eternal and Ultra Kill, but also an old game called Faceball 2000. Before deciding the genre, I did some more drawings and experimented around with the story. Eventually, I decided that they'd look like that because of a fungal virus, and I thought of and drew the first boss, which was indeed vampire. I also drew the player character, the protagonist, the multi-expression, with his iconic slightly angry orange face. I wanted a gruesome game, similar to Doom, and I wanted to make it so the player would end up hating these faces with all their heart. I wanted them to be as horrible as they looked, so I made it a boomer shooter, so you don't just feel like defenseless prey in the face of these abominations. Pun not intended. So I started development in Unity. Yes, you heard that right, Unity. But after around 2.5 hours, I decided this was too ambitious and I barely knew how to use Unity. As well, a friend you might know from the videos I'll put on screen told me it just wouldn't fit. And that resonated with me. We argued a lot about it and I did switch to Roblox Studio, but in the end, he was right. This was a very bizarre concept, and it probably wouldn't have been very well received in Steam, so in Roblox, it'd go better. Part 2. Beginning of development. On a little base plate, I made the first ever smiley and started coding the hardest and most advanced enemy system I've ever made. Originally, the enemies would notice you with sight mainly, similar to Doom, and the detection range would just be a bonus. Unfortunately, the sight feature barely ever worked, so that's why most enemies in the game detect you, but don't see you. And I also made the player a smiley, as a placeholder. And now, as a thank you for watching to this part of the video, I present to you the full clip of the first ever footage of FACEKILLER. No edits. Enjoy. Now, with that done, I started making more characters. I made the first 6 without much problem, and then moved on to the player's defense. I made the punch and the finger gun and made the type 2 smiley to see if I really could make slightly more advanced enemies. Here is a video of the first ever smiley type 2 kill.
Hi.
I then made a few more infected, mainly the Type 3 smiley, which was really fun because he's like a weeping angel. And then I made the water gun, though at that point in development, the water gun didn't require ammo, so it was infinite like the punch and finger gun. Here's a video of the first footage of a Type 3 smiley, which, by the way, everybody liked it. Part 3, the first map. Me and my friend decided that we wanted the first map to be some sort of institution. It'd make sense for it to have the weakest enemies with this. Now, originally, with the Unity approach, it was going to be called Mission 1, and there'd be multiple institutions, but that'd obviously be way too much, so I did only one infected school. The door system was made by me, too, by the way. And then I added some buildings so it's not obvious it's a base plate, then some fleshy decorations around to make it look even more infected, added some cinematic, dramatic music, and the first map was done. I'll put a video right now.
Hi. Hi.
After that, I made the second level without a lot of trouble and decided to add some lore with all the text. Fungal Corp was thought of on the spot, but I don't think it turned out bad as an evil antagonistic corporation. And that note near the end was inspired by Garden of Banban. As bad as that sounds, but I don't think I executed it badly. You can't just pause to read it though, so I suggest you kill every enemy before reading it. I then made the water gun system pretty easily with saving ammo and all. If I have an early video of level 2, I'll put it on screen right now. Part 4, more maps and the first boss. Then I easily made maps 3 and 4 without much trouble, making any enemies I needed on the way while I did so. Fun fact, the level 4 gimmick was originally going to be called Burner, and it'd be like a cell that lights up every few seconds with fire and damages anything. This was scrapped in favor of the conveyor belts. Level 5 was troublesome. It took extremely long to make and was a huge difficulty spike, also introducing the laser gun. I had too much fun placing the enemies, though, as a few do show up before being properly introduced, but that's why it's the first challenge level. It was around this time, too, that I made the game's first trailer. Levels 6, 7, 8, and 9 weren't that easy, but they were certainly nothing worth dragging this video over. The actual importance came in the form of the first boss. I made Vampire and play-tested him in a base plate. He took a long time. Here's a video of me fighting it for the first time. He did end up way too hard, but I'm 100% sure it's possible. Then, I made the dialogue and camera change system, and level 10 was ready. Part 5. Rest of the main game. I easily made the rest of the enemies and weapons as I made levels because the systems I had were so versatile that change was easy to implement. Levels 11 and 12 were a bit hard to decide. Levels 13 and 14 were planned from the beginning. I did want to add survivors, so where better than halfway through the game? For level 15, as the second challenge level, I decided to make it a bit nostalgic and also a mini-game. It's basically a war on Doomspire brick battle. I figured since the challenge level music is classic, why not make a classic challenge level? Level 16 introduced Miles, which is the main ally of the game, designed by my friend, of course. Then levels 17 and 19 were to make you used to having him around. Level 18 was an excuse to add a casino minigame. I'm sorry. Level 20 had Mutatoxic. This was one of the first drawings and the original final boss. He was going to be called Mother Infected, which is genuinely horrible to be honest, and that's why I changed it. His boss fight requires allies, which luckily you get lots of in the second third of the story mode, so if you didn't play like an 8, this battle shouldn't be too difficult. And that brings us to the final 10 levels. Quick rundown of the next 7 levels to not drag the video. Level 21, Primary Kidnapping. Level 22, Primary Introduction. Level 23, Primary Shenanigans. Level 24, Introducing Void. Level 25, TBC Cyclone reference. Level 26, Big Worms. And level 27, the Battle Cats. In level 28, Miles does something very important that I won't spoil. And for level 29, I wanted it to make you reflect on the journey so far. So, I made it be a mini section of levels 1 to 14. The reason there's stock music instead of something custom is because in the middle of making the very good song combining everything so far, my FAL studio crashed and I wasn't gonna pay $200. So I gave up and just added stock music. Now, level 29 was actually unfinished for months. I left FACEKILLER in the back of the games folder for a week, which was my break, and then went back to developing and did the final things. I did everything before finishing it. The final level, the modifier system, all settings, new weapons, and the boss. Until I decided it'd be lazy to have an orb that says I didn't want to finish it, so I finished it. It is kind of rushed, but at least it doesn't end with an orb that says I didn't want to finish this level. And now, level 30. I won't spoil the twist. The point is that there's credits at the end, and that's where the main game ends. Level 31 is not a level, it just tells you you finished the game. It's just a room, and at that point I could just release the game like that. But it was genuinely just scuffed. So, Part 6, the finishing touches. I added more decorations in some places. I tweaked any errors I found. I added a tutorial for each weapon, and then I made Nightmarish Inferno. This is the hardest challenge of the game. It was planned ever since level like 15. I wanted something to truly test whoever got this far to their limits. It's also just a reversed version of the hardest difficulty, Infernal Nightmare. This level took a lot of days, but when it was done, it was satisfying. And so, with that, the game was ready for release. It was ready for a bit more than a week, if I remember correctly. And then, it was October 31st, so I released the game in the night, and boom, and that'd be it. FACEKILLER was a good, ambitious project, and it was very fun to make. In the following videos, I will be doing devlogs of the next update. It'll have a lot of content for you guys to enjoy. I'm experimenting a bit with more serious videos. So thanks for watching.